Okay, so today I'm going to be demoing this body harness you can see on my male mannequin. It's the classic diamond body harness. So the front you've got 4 diamonds, the back I've added my own twist with some diamonds. And this is a harness that I feature a lot of times on my Instagram, so you'll see it in a lot of the posts. My Instagram is Secrets of Shibari, Shibari Shibari. You can check me out there, and a lot of my models you'll see have been tied in this harness. So I'm going to show you how to tie it yourself. You can either do this on a mannequin or on a willing, consenting partner / participant. Okay, so you want to get started with 2 30-foot ropes, and you're going to find the bite of those. So you'll see here on the back of my mannequin that I have tied a simple knot, classic knot, and this is the bite here. And then I've split them down into their halves. So we'll just let this rest. If you turn your partner around, now because I'm working on a mannequin that has a spinning connection, I'm just going to be flipping back and forth like this to demonstrate both the back and the front and what I'm doing. Now if you're working on an actual live human being, you will need to move around the person or ask them to spin for you. You can always just guide them by the hips and say step to the left or whatever it might be. So we're going to start with that knot nice and snug at the back of the neck. We're going to bring these down and we're going to create our second knot. And this you want to be just above the nipple line. What I like to do is keep all 4 ropes nice and flat, spin them around, and then pull them through. You'll notice that my harnesses do take a good amount of time. That's because I care about the artistic side of it. I want it to be visually stunning. The way the rope sits or lays, I expect it to be flat. So taking that extra moment or 2 to smooth your ropes out and ensure that they're all nice and laying in their rows, just as one extra step to make the final product look really nice and sharp. So now we've got our back knot and we've got our front knot. So what we're going to do is continue our split of 2 and 2. We'll lay them back out into a nice flat 4, and we're going to do our second knot, this one. So we're doing all our rows of knots first. Now, depending on the size of the diamond you'd like, you can make this as long as you want for the distance between them. The longer the distance, the larger the diamond will become. I don't like my diamonds to be any larger than this, so I stop it around there. Make it nice and snug. And we're gonna do a third knot. Same thing, get your ropes to be flat again into a nice ribbon of 4. Rotate it around and pull it through as a nice ribbon of 4. Now, I do recommend that once you've picked a distance between the knots, keep it that distance. If you start to create variations, it'll become harder later in the harness to keep your tension equal around the torso during the entire harness. And I'll show you why and what that looks like later. So those are about equal. I'm gonna snug it up. And you'll notice, for it to be a good knot, it looks like a snake head. So all 4 ribbons are nicely laid out, and all 4 ribbons are nicely laid out. It's nice and snug. Okay, so we've got 1 at the top, and I'm doing much larger diamonds this time. These are gonna be split wide open, and that will end up shortening this. So we're gonna add 1 last knot, which is the 4th one. I mean, if your partner is very short, very tall, you can always adjust this. If you only want to do 3 layers of knots instead of 4, you can customize it entirely. Once you've learned your basic knots, it's easy to start adjusting harnesses to how you prefer them to be or how your partner prefers them to be based on their body type or what they'd like most. So you'll notice that my knots are way longer than the torso of my lovely partner. And that's because we haven't split any of it open, which takes up some of the length. So if your partner is a human, not a mannequin, I would ask them to hold the rope so that the knot is right in their pelvic region. And then what we're gonna do is bring it towards the back. So because my partner is not human, I'm gonna do my best to keep that tension. And what I'm gonna do for that is actually pull this back. And that just helps bring it up so that I don't have to worry about holding it. So we're gonna take our rope, and we've got our 4, split it into our 2s. So I've got a bit of a pile here. I'm gonna get rid of that. Perfect. So we have our 2. We're gonna put it between the legs. And then I'll show you on the back here. What we're gonna do, we've got our 2, we're gonna bring it all the way up to the loop here, stick it through. Now, a good tip, anytime you're trying to grab rope, don't try to push it through whatever it is. Instead, you're gonna put a finger through, hook the piece of rope you're going after, a back hook works best, and pull it through. That way you're not poking and jabbing, trying to force the rope through, you're just pulling it nice and smoothly. Okay, so we've got 1 through. I'm gonna take the second one, get that through. Now because I'm working on a mannequin, I'm gonna whip my ends. I don't recommend you do that on a person. You could whip your ends and it could hit the person in the face or the eye, anything like that. So always guard your ends as you're pulling through. But for time and efficiency, I'm just gonna whip them. Okay, so we're gonna let this rope come back up to where it should be. We're gonna ensure that the 4th knot is low enough. So we'll give some slack here. And that's about where I want it. So you will make sure this knot's at the top, make sure your 4th knot is in the pelvic region where you wanted it. Hold your partner or have your partner hold it here so that you can get the correct tension on the back of the harness, and make sure that there's enough length so that as we're doing the harness and as we go, we're not cinching them until they can't breathe. So once we've got that length established with our 2s, now we're gonna lock off so that it becomes secure. So make sure you're split down into your 2. What I like to do for this one is just a simple like twist through. So I'll take it through the center, over and through. And this is just for visual. Looks nice and pretty, nice and smooth. So through the center, through the loop, and over. So I just did that backwards and reversing it. Now, if you wanted, you could create a lark's head here so that it fully secures off. In this case, I'm not going to, just because I want to keep it nice and smooth for my transition. So, make sure that 4th knot's in the pelvic region, this knot's at the top, the rest of the rope is secure. So I'm just tightening with the one hand. Again, this is much easier on a living partner, not a mannequin. Okay, now from here, we're gonna come back to the front. So you see how that's nice and smooth now? Keep the round end to the side. Okay, perfect. So back to the front of the partner. And this one will be secured under the armpits of the individual, or sorry, into the armpits of the person and above any breast tissue. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna just wrap this here to keep it out of the way for a moment. So I'll show you one side at a time. We're gonna split it down the center, so we create our V. We're gonna go over and pull it through underneath this line. Once you're through and underneath, you're gonna rotate it over and do a twist. Make sure that this is flat the entire time and let this rotate to remain flat. So yeah, that's nice and woven. We're gonna do the same on the other side. Now this is gonna be quite slack and loose to start. So we're gonna take the rope from the other side. Same thing, we wanna come above the breast tissue, under the armpit. We're gonna go over the rope line, pull it through underneath, and then we're gonna go over top and pull it through. So now we've got 2 waves. And the V is quite large. So we'll go to the back of our partner and you'll see that this doesn't quite look right. So that should be up a bit. So I'm gonna try to adjust and snug that up. Pull real snug. And then from here, we're gonna start creating our V pattern. So these are gonna go opposite. We're gonna do the same as the front. So go over, under, over, under. And again, this is gonna remain slack for quite some time. So just let that slide. Same thing here. We're gonna go over, under, and then over, under. So this is going to split the V to start. So that's our first section, or first diamond. We're gonna come around to the front. Make any adjustments you need to as you go. So you'll see this isn't quite snug how I'd like. Now we're gonna split into our next V. You can decide which ropes look best for this wear. Go over top, pull through underneath, over top, pull through underneath, over, under, over, under. And we've got our second V. So just pay attention to your flats of your little spirals here. If you're not paying attention to that weave and you're using different colored ropes, you'll end up with your colors opposite and it won't quite look as sharp. So we're gonna go back to our back. And this is where we start to really take shape in the back and get rid of some of the looseness that we had in our rope previously. So we're actually gonna take our rope and we're gonna cross them again. And that really cinches in the last one that we did. And now we're gonna go and do our next set. So, over, and through, underneath, over, and under. I'm gonna pull that and just leave it. Same with this side, we're gonna go over, underneath, and then pull it through so that it goes around into a spiral. From here, we're gonna raise it up to where we'd like, give it a cinch, go to the front of our partner. Now this one is the waist. So we're gonna decide where we wanna split it. I think I'm gonna do it there, go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. We can pull the cinch again. Now soon you might run out of rope. This is a very petite mannequin. You may have already run out of rope. So I will show you what to do when that happens. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna do another cross. Now, the way that these are crossed here is the same way you want to do it here, because if you go opposite and go bring this one over top, what that's gonna do is it's gonna start creating a twist in their butt, and it's not comfortable. So you wanna undo the cross you did the last time by keeping it the same, and then you're not gonna bulk up too much in their crotch, because nobody wants that. So just pay attention to the way those are overlapping for your model or your rope bottom. So same thing, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Now, if you're worried about how snug this is getting, you don't have to cinch it as much. You can just let it relax and it'll disperse over time back up into the chest, because this is where the loosest component is. You'll see that this knot lays really nice and flat. Okay, so we're getting to our ends. Now to extend, I'm just gonna add a 15-foot section. Grab your rope by the bite, create a lark's head. We're going to take our rope and put it through. So you'll see the lark's head sitting on it. Bring it near the end. And what you'll do is you'll roll the lark's head so that it locks into itself. That's nice and secure now. If you have uneven ends, you can always leave a little extra, but my ends were nice and even. We're gonna attach that. Then, so depending on how you've let this sit, you might need to adjust it. You can choose whether you'd like to add a groin knot. I do prefer to have a final knot along the inner hip here. It just makes it feel a lot more secure. Now you'll notice my knot's a little low. I didn't leave enough tension. I took a lot of tension by splitting this upper diamond so large, and I should have foreseen that. So learn from my mistakes. But you would continue the exact same way. I'm gonna go over, under, create your twist, which I shall do here. Hopefully your model is comfortable. Just check in with them, make sure you're not pinching them, and always have open communication with your bottom. You never know if someone is going to start to feel uncomfortable or claustrophobic in the knots. Sometimes people react in ways that they don't expect, so just check in. Hey, are you okay? Does that feel okay? Veronica, my model, doesn't mind. Not a big deal for her. So we'll bring this extension through. Oh, and you'll see I did not secure this well enough. It's starting to come off. Just retouch that. There we go. Over, under. Now, this is unfortunate placing on the mannequin to have the knots in the front. If you can, try to hide the knots as best as you can. So we're gonna make this nice and secure. Just up to here, of course. Okay, now, if your model is larger, you will likely be at the ends of your rope by now, and you'll be looking to tie off. What I did on my other mannequin here, you'll see, is I actually just created a slip knot. So I can very easily undo this and it becomes my first set of spirals. And that's because it ended with only a foot or so left of rope. So quite literally just did a left over right, a right over left, pulled through and made a slip. And that's it. It's not too bulky, it's not too uncomfortable. They only have the one set of ropes going between the legs. Now, because this model takes up significantly less rope and I'm finishing right at the ends, what I would actually do is start creating a bit of a thigh harness. So I would potentially tie off here, do one last set without creating another diamond, because that's going to start to become uncomfortable. Maybe we can. Let's do one more diamond. Over, under. over here, through. Through. And then, now that we've got that, I would come around and start to create a thigh wrap. So you can go 1, 2, and then I like to secure it all. So we go over and through like this. I'm going to do the same on this side. Bring it around to the front. 1, 2, can't quite see what I got here, and then we'll secure it. So we're going to go over and through. You just want to try and make sure that's symmetrical. You can always bring it down further if you need to. You can bring it as wide as you'd like. Now the further towards the back of the model you go, towards here, we start to get some lift. And that's when you get that jock strap type, squished butt cheek type look. So that's what I prefer to do on my models. I bring it back as far as I can without creating a separate bulge here. And do the same on this side of the model. Bring it back, and that's pulling this and also bringing this up at the same time. Make sure you're adding some height. Now from here you can do anything. It really depends on how much rope you have left. If you just have a little bit, quite literally, you can just wrap it and create a nice twist on the side that tucks it all together. It's gonna make the thigh wrap really nice and snug, and it'll look nice. Just make sure, again, that you're keeping your rope nice and flat. If you start to let it wrap in different directions or like twist over like that, it's not going to look as nice and smooth. And especially if you're using 2 color ropes, it'll create a nice candy cane effect. It's quite nice to just do a spiral with 2 colors of rope like this. So that is how I would recommend ending it. Or if you have more rope, obviously you can continue to add to the thighs and the butt. Or if you have less rope, you could end it in the bow like I described on the first one. Okay, so that is the final diamond body harness. It's a great harness. It makes the person feel very secure. It's like a big hug. I encourage you to try it out on a mannequin or a consenting partner. Now, if you want to look at the rope work that I'm creating in my spare time, I'm constantly trying to come up with new designs and work on my mannequins to come up with ideas for photo shoots and things like that. So you can always follow my Instagram page. It's Secrets of Shibari, and you'll be able to see what I'm up to and what I'm doing when my shoots are, new photos being released, new harnesses and things like that. So stay tuned.